Welcome. You are listening to the Louie Minor Show. I'm your host, Commissioner Louie Minor. Today is September 23rd, 2023. We have a lot to get to, so let's get started. Let's begin with the agenda for September 25th, 2023 at the Bell County Commissioner's Court. We have the invocation, then the Pledge of Allegiance. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consider approval of the minutes of the September 18th, 2023 Commissioner's Court meeting, budget and personnel amendments, claims, accounts payable, payroll, restitution, jury pay. Then we have consider approval of the reappointment of Jimmy Parker and Curtis Lockey to the Bell County Expo Board. Then we have consider approval of the final budget amendments for fiscal year ending in September 30th, 2023. Ratify jury pay rates effective September 1st, 2023 of $20 for the first day of service and $58 per day for all days of service after the first day. G, authorize online auction of 2008 CAT 416E backhoe, serial number SHA 4324 with GovDeals Inc. through Buy Board, contract number 708-23 for the Road and Bridge Department. H, authorize the county judge to enter into a contract with Granicus for short-term rental program, contract number NCP 01-115 through the Purchasing Cooperative, Omna Partners, at a cost not to exceed $45,705.45. 4, county engineers consider the approval of a final plat of Jones Farm being 39.98 acres, 7 lot, 1 block subdivision located in Bell County Precinct 3. 5, consider and take appropriate action on ordering restriction outdoor burn ban. And then 6, consider approve a resolution of support for a Defense Economic Assistance Adjustment Grant on behalf of Fort Cavazos. And that is everything for the agenda for the regular Commissioner's Court meeting. Now, on the workshop, we have a couple of items, reports from various county offices. We have CIP, capital improvement projects. That'll be the jail, Museum Archives Building, Colleen Annex, and then FY 2023 CIP program or CIP plan. On then after that, we have discussed Bell County Mud Number 2, Turnbow Ranch. I put that on there. Then we have discussed federal energy grants. I put that on there as well. And then these are scheduled for in the morning. They might roll over. Then on item E, we have discussed County Commissioner's Court representation on the Bell County Expo Board. Commissioner Schumann put that on. Then in the afternoon workshop, discuss subdivision regulations and changes by state law. County engineer put that on. B, discuss an agreement with Central Texas Mortuary relating to autopsies and blood draw services. Commissioner Whitson put that on. And then C, discuss and review job description of employees who are direct reports to the Commissioner's Court and or county judge. That's everything for the workshop. And then there's meetings for commissioners and county judge may attend. On the 25th, on Monday, we have the Historical Commission meeting. That's going to be in Belton. On the 26th, we have ribbon cutting ceremony at the Bell County Expo Center on the 26th as well at 6:30, Town Hall with Representative Brad Buckley. Also on the 26th, we have a Central County Services Board of Trustees. On the 27th, we have a Public Policy Luncheon, State Representative Hugh Shine. That'll be at the Central Texas Home Builders Association in Harker Heights. And then the 28th, we have the Chillingham Solar and Battery Project Construction Operation Open House in Rogers. And that is everything for the workshop and the Commissioner's Court agenda for the 25th. Well, just since our last show, the impeachment of the Attorney General, Kim Paxton, has ended. They found him not guilty on all 16 charges that the hearing actually covered. I believe there were 3 or 4 charges for the security frauds that he's indicted for, both at the state level and at the federal level, that the Senate dismissed without even hearing anything. And some people were not surprised. There's a lot to cover on that, but I want you to hear real quick Lieutenant Governor's, his take immediately after the findings of not guilty of the Attorney General.
Members, I have just a few minutes of comments, about 5 minutes. I've been unusually quiet for the last 3 months since the House of Representatives sent the articles of impeachment against Attorney General to us on very short notice in the final hours of the regular legislative session. The law requires the Senate to receive the articles and have a trial, and once I realized I would be the presiding officer and judge, I thought it was my duty to be quiet on this issue. Otherwise, how could I oversee a fair trial? I've done my very best to do so the last 3 months, and especially the last 2 weeks. Now that the trial is over, I want to take a few minutes before we close to put a few remarks in the court record for future legislatures to read in the event of another impeachment one day on both what the House and Senate did. Senators, first I want to once again thank you for doing your work. You all were thorough. You were thoughtful. You were professional. I watched all of you each day listen intently to every word that was said by every witness. Many of you took notes nonstop. I want to thank the Rules Committee. Senator Birdwell, the chair. I want to thank the Rules Committee for their tireless work. Senator Huffman, Senator West, Senator Hinojosa, Senator Creighton, Senator King, Senator Flores. You worked many hours for the last 3 months. You wrote 31 rules that were approved by the Senate 25-3. And those senators, when you brought them to them, they made adjustments and suggestions to those rules, as you know. It was a collaborative effort from all members. All of us studied past impeachments from all across the country to learn from the mistakes of past impeachments so we wouldn't make the same errors. Now, the 31 rules weren't perfect, but you can be proud of the rules you passed. They were our guide for these last 90 days or so and through this process. I want to mention one rule that really stands out to me for future legislatures, I believe, to follow. And that was putting a reasonable time clock on both parties to present their case. Otherwise, this trial could have lasted, as some others have, for months, or at least 4 or 5 weeks. Both sides were in agreement immediately on the time clock and how it should be allocated, and I appreciate both parties for your cooperation, not only on that, and much of that was actually part of your suggestion as well, but on every rule. I said to both parties when we met here a week before the trial to do a walkthrough that we wanted to have a fair trial and protect the integrity of the body. the integrity of this great chamber, and each of you fulfilled that. I was proud of both of you, how you conducted yourselves on the court. I feel it's important to set the full record straight on this trial because I want people in the future to have a full picture of what happened and how did we get here. I've spent most of the last 90 days, as many of you have, preparing for this trial. I've issued over 240 subpoenas. I've studied numerous motions, written multiple orders, read hundreds of pages of history, rules, documents, and worked on every detail of this trial with you and with our incredible Secretary of the Senate, the Clerk of the Court, who turned this chamber into a courtroom, and her great staff. I have had a total view of this process from the very first day the House sent over the articles of impeachment to us in May. With all due respect to the House, we didn't need to be told in the final arguments how important this vote was. I believe the quote was, "This will, if you are like me, be the hardest and most difficult and the heaviest vote that you will ever cast in your time in the legislature. This vote will be the vote you're remembered for most." Our members already knew that and have known that for the last 3 months. If only the House members who voted for impeachment would have followed that instruction in the House, we may not have been here. In the House, the vote to send the articles of impeachment against the Attorney General to the Senate happened in only a few days, with virtually no time for 150 members to even study the articles. The Speaker and his team rammed through the first impeachment of a statewide official in Texas in over 100 years, while paying no attention to the precedent that the House set in every other impeachment before. In the past, the House had transparent and open investigations for all to see, including other House members. The target of the investigation was notified and invited to attend with counsel and given an opportunity to cross-examine witnesses that were placed under oath before testimony was taken. At the conclusion of past House investigations, the evidence was laid out for weeks for House members to evaluate, not hours, before they took their vote on articles of impeachment. Representative John Smithee, a longtime House member who has argued cases before the Texas Supreme Court, spoke on the House floor during impeachment vote in May. He was one of only 23 who voted against impeachment. Representative Smithee said the House could not legitimately impeach General Paxton on the record because there was no record to send to the Senate. He said the House was not following the rule of law. He said the House approach, and I quote Representative Smithee, "Hang them now and judge them later." Confirming this, Representative Murr, the chair of the House Investigating Committee, said on the House floor, "The House is not the body that does the fact-finding. The fact-finding occurs in the Senate, and the oath for any witnesses would occur there." Well, that's just not true. As Representative Smithee said, that's exactly what they did in 1917. He said the last House impeachment of a statewide official in 1917 was Governor Ferguson. John Smithee said it was conducted like a full trial before the House sent it to the Senate. Witnesses were put under oath and cross-examined by the defendant. He said this time no House witnesses were put under oath, and the defendant was denied the right to cross-examine. Representative Smithee told his fellow members the House process was indefensible. Representative Smithee said the House did not follow the rules of evidence, and their case was based on triple hearsay that would never be allowed in court. I think Representative Smithee's speech was one of the most honest and courageous speeches I've ever heard of in the House. And if you want to watch it online, go to YouTube. Look up John Smithee, that's Smithee, his floor speech on the Paxton impeachment. It's an amazing, courageous speech to give when he knew he was only one of 23 not voting for impeachment. In the next regular session, we should amend the Constitution on the issue of impeachment as currently written that allowed this flawed process to happen. Any testimony given in a House impeachment investigation must be given under oath, and the target of that impeachment must be allowed to present with a lawyer to cross-examine the witnesses. Otherwise, people can say anything they want without any accountability or need to be truthful because there is no threat of perjury. The House must also give members a minimum of 2 weeks to review all evidence given under oath before voting on such a serious matter. Had they done those two things, this trial may never have happened. And when the House sends articles of impeachment to the Senate, if they do in the future, the official should not be put on unpaid leave through the process. The federal system does not allow that. Why do we allow that in Texas? President Clinton and President Trump did not have to step down from the Oval Office from their duties during their impeachment process. And members, this is not a partisan issue. We owe it to future legislatures to make these changes so that no future official impeached by the House, whether Republican, Democrat, or Independent, is subject to the way this impeachment process occurred in the House this year. Millions of taxpayer dollars have been wasted on this impeachment. 31 senators and a large Senate staff that made this trial possible have put their family life, their jobs, their business on hold for the last 3 months after already being here from January to June. I'm going to call next week for a full audit of all taxpayer money spent by the House from the beginning of their investigation in March to their final bills they get from their lawyers. We will provide our cost as well that were forced on us by the House impeachment. One big difference: we didn't pay a huge team of outside lawyers and investigators. We did it mostly with our own staffs, working endless hours with no extra pay. As Representative Smithy said, this is not the way it has happened in the past in the House. That's why I believe we've only had 2 prior impeachments. Our founders expected better. It should have never happened this year, and hopefully it doesn't again unless we address this in the Constitution. And finally, members, may God continue to bless the greatest place God ever created on earth, the place we call Texas. We are the envy of the world. We are the America that all America used to be, and that's why people move here from every state in the Union by the hundreds of thousands every year. Members, each of you took an oath on the Sam Houston Bible on the first day of this trial. And I know no matter how you voted, you lived up to that oath and how you saw the evidence. I thank you again for the professionalism you demonstrated every day for the last 3 months. I'm honored and I'm proud to serve with you as Lieutenant Governor. Members, a judgment of acquittal or dismissal on all articles of impeachment satisfies Texas Constitution Article 15, Section 5. I will now sign the final judgment. This judgment will be filed with the Secretary of State, and Attorney General Warren Kenneth Paxton Jr. is hereby, at this moment, reinstated to office.
And with those closing remarks that you just heard from the Lieutenant Governor / judge of the impeachment trial, that set off what the media classified as a civil war that's beginning among Texas Republicans. So let's see if that civil war comes home. Keep in mind, let's just follow this for a second. The Lieutenant Governor, Senate, and the Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, they don't get along. That was evident during the regular legislative session, where they couldn't even pass a budget. They couldn't come to an agreement on taxes. Had to deal with the surplus, teacher pay raises, and the vouchers. It failed the Texas House multiple times. And so, I mean, it seems like a perfect storm of a lot of things going on, and it does have a Bell County connection, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But so he blamed the House. The Lieutenant Governor blamed the House for bringing a flawed process to it. Keep in mind, both representatives, House representatives from Texas or from Bell County, both Hugh Shine and Brad Buckley, both voted for impeachment. Both of them did. And there was the first interview that Ken Paxton did was with Tucker Carlson, and on X, Twitter, he had a 45-minute or so interview. I listened to that because I want to be I want to be informed of what's going on and what people are thinking. And Ken Paxton just pretty much said, "Get ready." He's going to go after people, primary people, support candidates that oppose individuals that voted against him, that voted for impeachment. And a majority, you heard what the lieutenant governor said, only 23 in the House, in the Texas House, voted not to impeach him. So there's definitely a overwhelming majority of people that voted for him, of legislators that voted for him, or voted for impeachment. So I would imagine if Ken Paxton wants to go after the people that voted to impeach him, he's probably going to be spending a lot of time on the campaign trail, probably more time than he would would serving the people of Texas. But so that was put out, and Speaker Phelan said that it was rigged, that the fix was in. Remember, before the trial started, it was in the public records, finance records, that Dan Patrick received $3 million from a political action committee that is pro-Paxton. $1 million cash, and then a $2 million loan from reports. And it was later said, put in the record, that Dan Patrick was calling senators during the deliberation. And what do you think he was saying? Reports are that they were close to impeachments, but since they could not get it over the hump, that senators decided to back off and vote for not impeaching. And listening to Ken Paxton on Tucker Carlson, he went after President Biden, blamed the president for his impeachment, blamed the Democrats, the Democratic Party, the Democrats in the state legislature on his impeachment, saying that the Texas House is run by Democrats, which is, I assure you, not the case, because I know multiple Democrats in the House, and I don't think they would be passing some of the legislation that comes out of there. Not one bit. But then he blamed Karl Rove. He kept on calling him liberal Karl Rove. Karl Rove is well known in Republican Party politics, helped Governor George Bush at the time, then President Bush, get elected. And I don't think he's any liberal, but that's how Ken Paxton, the MAGA Republicans, are referring to him. And I think a lot of people are going to get primaried this coming election cycle. A lot of state representatives. And I'm really going to be curious to see what happens here locally with our two representatives. Now they have both of them have events scheduled. I think you overheard me mention those events. One of them is on the 26th. Representative Brad Buckley doing a town hall, open to all, free to all, at Texas A&M Central Texas. I plan on attending that one. And then Representative Hugh Shine is having a public policy luncheon with the Central Texas Home Builders on the 27th. And I'm sure that one is paid. You got to pay to go, pay to listen. I think this is the first time I can recall Representative Buckley doing a town hall. And the same for Hugh Shine. I do remember going to a thing many years ago where Hugh Shine was a member of a panelist, but it was put on by the Texas Tribune, and he attended that. But so all that happened. And then the governor of Texas, as we all knew what was going to happen, is calling for a special session. It's going to happen in October for vouchers. And it's going to be an interesting sight to see, with all this animosity with the Texas House and the Texas Senate, that I think tensions could not be higher between the two bodies right now. And now they're going to go into a special session to work on something that they have not agreed to yet, and was definitely against during the legislative session. So, yeah, it'll be good to see. And like I said, the reason why I'm talking about that, all of this is going on because Representative Buckley is the chair of the school, the finance committee for the schools. He's the chair for that. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to get something done for the governor. But I can tell you there's going to be equal amount of pressure here in the home district, District 54, Killeen, Bell County Precinct 4, that we don't want school vouchers. We don't want public money going to private schools with no accountability. We're not going to support that, and we're going to let him know that this it's the wrong road to go down, and that he needs to listen to his constituents that voted him into office. Protect our public schools, protect our teachers, give them a pay, fully fund, increase funding for schools. That's what they need to be doing, not taking money away and trying to divert that to the private sector. Because those schools, private schools, they're not going to accept everyone. They're going to be selective on who they take. And the vouchers will not even cover a full tuition. So that's going to be another problem. If someone doesn't have the money to cover the difference, then what is a voucher going to do for them? Nothing. they'll stay in a school. So this is only something that's going to help the rich and privilege. So yeah, and the governor waited obviously for school to start, so teachers won't be able to organize as much against it because they'll be in school teaching. So yeah, it'll be a good month, October, and then yeah, we'll be actively. I mean, the Bell County Democratic Party. There's a local teachers union here as well. I'm sure they're going to be very active on putting pressure on their legislator to let them know how we expect them to vote to represent and protect probably one of the biggest employers in our city for sure. Killeen ISD has a lot of clout, and you want to pull money away from there. Go figure. I guess if that's something that you accomplish, it's definitely going to be hard. It's going to be hard coming at the next election cycle, because if you have a primary opponent, because how you voted for the impeachment of Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, and then you gut public schools, yeah, I don't see that ending well for you politically. So, anyways, yeah, we'll put the pressure, and we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. I guess the next thing that we can talk about is two things, a couple of things that I'm doing within the next week. Tonight, I'll be going to the Ground Game Texas fundraiser in Austin. I got invited to come down there and speak, and I look forward to doing that. And then next week, I'll be going to an event fundraiser for one of my good friends, former state representative, now running for Travis County tax assessor collector, Celia Israel. She ran for mayor of Austin and lost by a couple of hundred votes. It was really close, and then had to do a runoff. But it if you're listening to this, you probably donate to candidates, but it really matters. Obviously, we don't have public funded campaigns, so candidates donate to other candidates. Candidates go and speak and help each other out, and organizations. There's a lot of organizations out there that you can affiliate with that help out. But no, I'm really excited to go to Ground Game's event tonight. I think they're doing a lot of great, innovative things here in the state to get people to come out and vote. And that's the name of the game, is voting. And in Killeen, Killeen's the largest city in Bell County. And if we activated Killeen, if we could just get the people to come out and vote, just a few percentage points higher than what they do now, the Democratic Party can run this county. Every countywide elected official, we could be running this county. So we haven't we haven't got our, you know what together, but we're getting there. And I think that the Republicans are starting to see that. They know that we're organizing. They know that we're starting to get uncontrollable here in Killeen, here on this side of the west side of the county, and it's marching east. But so yeah, uh, those events are coming up. I'm also working on a town hall that I'm going to do. You know, that's one thing that I can say for um, Congressman Representative Pfluger, who I went to his first town hall that I can recall him having here in Killeen, and I don't agree with anything he said, but I do respect the fact that he came out and put himself out there. And, you know, we are very, very far from his home um, because of gerrymandering, but he's taking time. He's coming here. He's listening to the people. Now he doesn't know what people are going to ask, obviously, but he's allowing people to have easy access to address concerns with him, and that's something that we never got from our former representative, Congressman John Carter, who's still out there. And I believe he has a couple of people primarying him. He's done it before, been primaried before. But yeah, it's like I said, primary season is getting ready. The filing begins in November. I don't know the exact date, but it goes for 1 month once it starts. And then that's where we'll see who's running for what. We know we got, at least here in the county, and you know, we can start. I'll start talking about this as we get closer to the filing period. But as of right now, today, we know that the county commissioner for Precinct 3 is going to be an open seat because Bill Schuman said he's not going to run for re-election. And 2 people have already stated that they are going to run. One of the individuals said he'll be running on the Republican ticket is a guy named Paul Romer, I believe. I don't know anything about him, but from what the paper said, he works for the city of Belton, is a former council member from Lorena, I believe. And then the other individual is a Bell County Precinct 4 deputy constable, and his name is Ison Ismaili. And I hope I'm getting that correct. But both of those will be running on the Republican ticket. I know there's some interest on the Democratic side for that seat, so we'll see who winds up running for that. Then we got a couple of judge positions that are going to be open. We have Jax Jones. He's the presiding judge for the district courts. He is retiring, so that's an open seat. I do know 2 people that have announced on the Republican side for that. And then I met an individual. I forgot his first name, but his last name, but his first name was very memorable. His name was Cheyenne. Seemed like a really nice guy. He's running for Judge Gant's district court because he's forced to retirement because of the age restriction. I did not know that there was an age restriction on district judges, but there is. And I'm glad that is. There just so happens to be a constitutional amendment this November to raise that mandatory retirement age of district judges, I believe from 70 to 75. And if that's the case, then Judge Gant will get to run for reelection. But I certainly hope that, Judge Gant's been there for a long time. It's time. Mitt Romney announced that he's not running for reelection. He said at the end of if he was to run again, he would be 80. He said he thinks that it's time for the next generation to step up and solve the problems for them. So I completely agree with that. You need to know when it's time to go. You need to know when it's time to retire, when you're old ideas, it's just you lose track of where society is, you lose track of where it's going, and there's some trains of thought of stability and experience and knowledge and wisdom. But sometimes you got to try new ideas. Norms have changed. I think one of the good things I heard before is that, laws are not static. I believe that was Chief Kimball had said that one time, that it stuck with me. Laws are not static. Laws change, and they change because of new leadership, of new, younger elected officials coming in and pushing for those changes. So, there'll be more openings. I don't know, but we'll definitely stay on top of them. I want to have and some interviews coming up. I plan on having some interviews coming up with some of the candidates that I know that are interested in running, at least on the Democratic ticket here locally. We have one person that I know that is going to be running for a state house, and I'll be bringing that individual with me to the ground game fundraiser tonight. So I'm excited for this up and coming election cycle, and let's get to work. Let's register voters. That was something else that we did that I did this week. I believe Tuesday was National Voter Registration Day. I'm a deputy voter registrar, so I went out and registered voters, and I think I went to the college, Texas A&M Central Texas, and within the hour and a half that I was there, I registered, I think, 6 or 7 people, and that's good. If you've registered voters before, that's a good number for that. But we had events all over the county. The League of Women Voters, they were out. The Democratic Party was out. NAACP was out. And I do know the Republican Party and the Democratic Party was at one event co-hosting a voter registration drive. So, that's part of the key, getting people registered to vote, making sure that when they're ready to exercise that right, that there's no issues with that they're not in suspense status, that they're able to cast their vote when they want to cast it. And that's part of making sure that people have their rights. So thank you for tuning in. We will get to work, get ready for the 2024 presidential election cycle. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.